So with Christmas having just passed and lots of board games, lots of card games, one of the questions that came up in a game I played was, does money buy happiness? Now it's an interesting question because the question in and of itself doesn't really define any parameters. Being the deep thinker that I am, I did think long and hard about that question, and the conclusion that I came up with at the time was no. But what interested me was the majority of the room. I think I was playing with about 8 people. They all agreed that yes, it does. That really intrigued me because I'm not very wealthy by any means, but I'm not in a lot of poverty by any means either. Yet these people were a lot better off than I am. And I couldn't help but think perhaps there's something I'm missing. They have families. I don't have a family yet. I thought perhaps it's about something different, something a bit deeper. So I come up with a few little examples in my head. I thought, okay, let's say that it does. What is it that you're talking about when you say it buys me happiness? Is it an object? Is it a group of objects? Is it being able to buy the next product every time it comes out? Is it something to do with status and materialism? Is that just a biological inbuilt tendency that we have to have the new things, have the flashiest things? Because at the end of the day, perhaps it's a car. Perhaps you really need a car and you need a new one, and you want one that's quite nice because of the comfort, because of the reliability, because your current car might be a lot older, it might break down on you every 5 minutes, and it might interrupt your work life, it might interrupt your social life, constantly running it forward and back to the garage all the time, and that's wasting your lifetime. So arguably, if someone says to you, here's some money to buy a brand new car, maybe it does buy happiness. However, the term happiness might not be quite right for that situation. It might be the reliability of the car. Happiness would be that it's buying you a stress-free existence for a long time, because cars might last a good 10 years if it's brand new before you ever even have to think about anything going wrong. So are you buying that peace of mind because you don't then have to waste time going to and from the garage? You haven't got to keep worrying about it breaking down. You can attend work, you can attend socials without ever having to worry that something's going to explode on the car. So does it buy a peace of mind? And how far is that from happiness? Perhaps you're still living at home and you've grown to a certain age where you think, I need my own space. Houses are expensive, flats are expensive, even if you rent and don't own the property, it's expensive, really expensive. So would it be buying you happiness if someone gave you enough money to buy your own place, be able to pay your rent for a few years? I think the immediate answer is, well, of course. Who doesn't want enough money so that they can afford not to worry about paying the rent anymore? Stuff like this is quite practical, obviously. Personally, I think that the only money that I would like is to buy a newer car, something more reliable, like I've said in the example. That's because I'm very content with my current university degree and the work that I'm doing. And I want to just be able to get to A and B without ever having to worry and be able to do my socials as and when I please. But at the moment, I do have a bit of an older car and it's getting a little bit ropey. So it constantly is on my mind every time I drive. Am I going to get there on time? Is this the day that I'm on the motorway and everything explodes on me and I'll be stuck? So for me, if I was to be able to purchase something brand new, does that mean it buys me my happiness because it's bought me my peace of mind? But if you're in a position in life where you actually have everything that you kind of need, whether you have a nice home, you can afford food and drink, they haven't got to worry about, where's the next paycheck coming from to feed me and my family. You have a reliable vehicle and it gets you around, it's nice and comfortable. That's all great. You've got all the new devices, you've got a really good PC, you've got laptops, you've got tablets, you've got phones, and you've got lovely clothes, all comfortable and all luxurious. What is it that keeps people wanting more? And more importantly, is it worth it? Of course, everyone's opinion will vary on a case-by-case basis, but for me personally, I know there are things that would make my life easier, and you could argue that makes my money buy me happiness. More or less, I am very content with what I'm doing. I've got time to exercise, I've got time to eat well, I've got time to socialize, and I'm working long hours on my work and university. For me, that's actually a really fulfilling life. However, there are places in the world that I would like to visit that requires money, possibly thousands, and who's to say it's right or wrong to travel in luxury, going business class, first class, or going on a £16 someone's budget airline flight with a return, perhaps having enough money for that would actually limit my experiences. At present, I would have to go and stay in hostels to make it economical. But if I had a lot of money, I could go and pay for nice hotels. But would I get the same social experience? Would I be missing out on things? Would I miss life-changing experiences because I don't meet certain people? Will my soulmate be there when I visit that hostel? You make loads of friends and you end up in a long-term relationship which ends up being your life partner. So then, does money prevent certain levels of happiness too, by obscuring you from experiences that you would have without the means to avoid certain hardships? So a big factor regarding money is health. If you need a surgery, perhaps your health service doesn't provide it. I'm in the UK, so we have the NHS. That means that I get most treatments for free. What if there's a treatment that I really need or would give me a massive better quality of life and I don't have the money to pay for it? Does money buy me happiness when I can pay for my medical treatment? Then I would argue, well, yes, it basically does, because it's giving me a much better quality of life. It doesn't mean that I have to potentially suffer with chronic pain, put up with a condition which is not funded by the NHS to be treated with a certain drug. So of course there are loads of different nuances with this kind of aspect and this kind of question. It's fun to have a little play around with ideas in your mind as to what you think about the question. Does it buy you happiness? Does it buy you quality of life? How close are those two linked? But one thing that I would really like to stress is, if there is a certain amount that you want, perhaps you've constantly been chasing, I want to be a millionaire. What is it about that status or that amount in your bank? What is it would actually do for your life? What part of that money is actually buying you happiness? And I think a big trap is to follow what other people expect of you. And there's a certain amount of money which would mean that you fit in with a certain crowd. Perhaps there's a certain designer that every one of your friends buys, or someone you like buys, and you think that you need that too. And if you don't have it, you're not in with the cool kids. I would strongly advise against that mentality, because I think that is almost literally Alice chasing the rabbit down the hole. Because every time that there's a new car, every time there's a new footwear release, every time there's a new mobile phone release, I'd urge you to ask yourself, do you really find fulfillment in that? Is it you that's enjoying that purchase? Or is it just the feeling of fitting in and feeling like you have to keep paying for these new things because then you look a certain way? I really think status chasing is a problem, because the second you buy something, a new one comes out and yours is the old one. Just think about a car 5 years ago and you thought, oh wow, that is incredible. I need that. That's the new release. It's the new model. I need it now. Do you still want that now? Because it's the same thing that you wanted then, but the model has moved on, but it's still everything you wanted and you needed. So why don't you still want it? Why do you now want the next model that's come out? Perhaps it's a phone one model ago you thought was the best thing ever, and now there's a new release and you think that's even better. Don't fall into that trap of constantly chasing the new thing, because personally I think that's a surefire way to really waste a lot of your life.